home. Like I've always got that 120 kilometers in the morning, even though I've got a small electric range. Or I'll charge it in the middle of the day. Like you said in the intro, I basically forgot how to work a gas station. It was so many months that I went there and I thought, well, I actually screwed up. And had my son pump it and he spilled gas in my shoe. That does not happen with electronics, people. You can't spill electricity on yourself. How long will the battery last? It's lasted 7 years so far, 100,000 kilometers. I expect it to last the life of the car, and as I said earlier, I have the worst EV battery there is. In March, 3 months after my car was made, they improved the battery and it was a lot better. So what will happen to the battery after the car goes to heaven? Nothing any more than copper wire from SAS Power would be left on the side of the road and not picked up. It is very valuable. Even half spent, the minerals can be recycled. The modules can be used for storing solar in a home or different projects. And the fact is, there just aren't enough electric cars that have come to the end of their life in the world that we really know. There's at least one US electric battery recycler who will work on electric cars so far. But that's going to improve, and they're looking at 99%. So part two, why I'm here, the exciting part, but the part where you all came out into the winter to see. One morning last winter, it went down to minus 42 degrees. Anyone remember that? Or was your brain frozen? Yeah, I don't remember it going down to minus 40 for a long time. Maybe I'm just getting old, but I don't remember that getting that cold. So I'm going to show you the video that the great people at the library decided I should come give a presentation. This is the extended dance mix of the video. This is the long drawn out version, not the short tight version that really captured the imaginations of people. But I'll show it to you. And my dashboard will say minus 30, but it was actually minus 40, and it went down to minus 42 that night.
Hey, it's James. I bought a 2013 Nissan Leaf, a used. It's now 6 years old. I've had it for a year. And it doesn't normally get down to minus 42 where I live in Regina. It does get into the minus 30s a few days of winter, but minus 42 is weird. It's very cold, and it's not usually this cold. That vortex that came down from the Arctic. So this is essentially Arctic temperatures, and of course everyone around here is fearful of electric cars because their normal cars don't start because of the battery, the 12-volt battery. But really, electric cars, the battery is huge, and they heat themselves. They have built-in heaters, whether they're plugged in or not. They're always operational. Yes, your gas tank is half as big when it's very cold out, but it's always full in the morning because you're charging it overnight at home. So you're starting with a full gas tank in an electric car every day, usually. Okay, it's minus 40 Celsius and Fahrenheit. We unplug the car, 240 volts. The cabin is hot because the climate control timer was set for our departure time. It knows when to come on and heat the cabin to make it nice and toasty before we go. Depending on temperature, it'll come on a lot earlier, as I'm sure it did today. So it is like a toaster in here. Here's how you start it. You push a button, and it's on. And you drive. No warming up, no nothing. You just drive.
I hope it never gets that cold again. You just hear the snow crunch.
This has been a report from James Whittingham. Good day.
So that's my hard-hitting journalism. Yeah, so that, for some reason, I don't know, people reacted to that video because it was, I don't know what they thought would happen, but there's nothing to warm up in an electric car. There's no moving parts, no engine. You simply warm up the cabin. So when the car turns on to heat the car doesn't turn on, the heater in the cabin turns on. And that's done either from an app or from a control on your dashboard. So we program it. I take my kid to school every day, and that's our first ride. So it will come on based on the outside temperature. It will decide what time it has to come on to start heating, so that it feels like literally like a toaster by the time you're leaving. And it will melt all the snow on the windows and the frost, even at -40. It did that. So, and it does that from the grid. So you still have the same range otherwise, because it's plugged in and it's heating from your house, using electricity from your house. And nobody can steal your car, right? Because it's not turned on. It's just the heater. And this Jack Reagan of the internet said, well, what happens if it wasn't plugged in? Well, the same thing would have happened if it wasn't plugged in. I'm waiting for another -40 day to prove that. It is because the battery is a large 1,500-pound system. It's like the Terminator in wedge form. And it's got its own heater that heats itself with its own electricity. It's not plugged in. If it falls below -17 or -20, my car will heat itself, heat its battery to keep it at an operating temperature. Not to keep it at an optimal temperature, which would be at least +18 or warmer, but at an operating temperature so that your car will always operate. And I don't know exactly how long it can do this. Even with my small battery, I think it can do it probably for a week or two. So you don't even have to plug in an electric car. If you live in an apartment and you can only charge at work and you don't have a place to plug in, you can leave your car at -40 and laugh at your neighbors who are calling the tow truck. By the way, when I drove off into the city, I must have counted a half dozen people getting tow trucks and booths, and my neighbors getting cabs and never take cabs. And the conception is, of course, electric cars don't work in winter. Well, the reverse is true, and I'm here to tell you. So, this is the list of horrific events in the Canadian's life: to access, amputation, to train accident, of course. Those times your gas car doesn't start in winter, which is horrible. I assume everyone here has had a car not start at one point. It's one of the worst experiences you can have, and it's a common Canadian thing. It's happening less because cars are getting a little better, right? But it still happens, and it's our biggest fear, especially when you're stuck and you gotta get somewhere. But people think because there's a, it's often your battery in your car that gets cold, that it can't crank the engine. And they think, well, an electric car has a big battery, so the battery's not gonna work in cold weather, but it will because it heats itself. So this is an electric car battery on the right. It's taken apart, but you can see it is a big ass thing. It is 1,500 pounds of stuff. It is insulated. It has heating and cooling built in. Not so great in the Nissan Leaf. Better. It's actually more important to keep your battery from getting too hot than it is too cold, because it's harder to cool a hot battery because they get hot when they're used and they're charged. So it's giant compared to the battery in your car. If you're thinking of the same thing, you're wrong. This costs $120, has a thin plastic case. It's lead acid, it's 12 volts, it's about 30 pounds, and the battery in an electric car is up to 1,500 pounds, 350 volts. It is a big Terminator-like machine. And it is not going to let itself fail. It's going to take care of itself on its own. No matter how stupid you are, how neglectful you are, it will take care of itself for days and days and days, if not weeks. So, it's 50 times heavier than a starter battery in your car. It is insulated, it's heated and cooled by itself. It doesn't have to crank anything. It has far more complex chemistry than in your cell phone. If you're trying to compare it to your cell phone battery, it doesn't work in the cold or doesn't last more than 2 years. It's not the same thing. This is a better version of my battery. You can see at the back it comes up, that is the back seat. So in an electric car, you have a flat floor in the back seat. You don't have a hump because there's no exhaust, there's no transmission. So that gives you more room in an electric car, which is nice. And now I have a shocking announcement, because we're talking about battery heaters. I discovered during this slide presentation over the last half year, and I've been working on this, trying to time. My battery heater is never turned on, even at -42. I discovered this by reading my manual. I park it outdoors, as you can see. It's not even in the garage. And it's because I drive it every day. So when you drive a car, an electric car, you're discharging it and you're charging it, and that makes a battery hot. And they don't cool off. I figure it takes maybe more than 24 hours for my battery to cool off once it gets warm. Your car engine will do it in a half hour minus 40, right? Or something like that. The faster you charge or drain the battery, the hotter that sucker gets. So what you do is, you charge it overnight, and you can set a timer on all electric cars to say, I want my baby charged by 8 a.m. because that's when I'm leaving. So it will back time the amount of time it needs to charge, and it will start somewhere in the middle of the night in order that it finishes charging at 8 a.m. So you're heating the battery just by charging it. That's why my heater has never come on, because it's never had a chance to cool off. If I didn't drive every day, it would probably have come on. Some of the newer cars, the Teslas, which update their cars over the air, so you wake up to a better car in the morning, just like a software update on a computer. They are getting better at preconditioning, or at least giving you the option to precondition your battery. For instance, they will precondition it before charging it. If you go on a highway trip, they will warm that battery up to a nice hot level so that it takes that charge really fast once you get to the charging station. And yeah, so they'll start improving things for cold climates, and they'll warm that battery up better. Right now, though, in my car, they're just making it warm enough to be operational, not to be ideal. So really, I ask, how do combustion engines work at minus 42? Look at that complex sucker. That is an archaic piece of junk right there. There's doohickeys and did-dads and bell whistles and gollygawks. I don't know what's all on there, but there's O2 sensors, there's exhaust systems, there's belts and pulleys and things from that really shouldn't exist anymore. How do those suckers work? I'm not a car expert, okay? But as near as I can tell, this is what happens. A fuel pump, a little electric fuel pump uses electricity to pump juice from a dinosaur, which is laced with antifreeze, by the way, in the wintertime. When it gets cold out in cold climates, they change the gas. So a liter of gas will hold less energy in the wintertime because it's got antifreeze in it. It's watered down. So you get less fuel economy for that. And it goes from that storage tank out of the car into the engine compartment, and some frozen air, minus 42, is sucked in and compressed to create fire. And you're creating fire and explosions, which shouldn't be happening anymore. It's not necessary. So yeah, you got all this thick frozen motor oil that has to get churned it has to be kept warm with a block heater, right? And if this process doesn't work well, it's like a middle-aged man trying to put on a condom. You only have one chance to get it right. If you fail, it's all over. So if you don't get that car started in 30 seconds, it's not going to start because you've depleted your battery. So if EVs were the norm today, people would be scoffing at the idea that combustion engines could possibly work in a Saskatchewan climate because they are complex and they are ridiculous. They have been perfected over 100 years and they work fairly well, but they are very complex. People think EVs, they're electric. They must be the most complex things on Earth. They're actually very simple. There's a battery, there's an electric motor, and an inverter, and a couple of other things. Well, we're not making fire in minus 42. There's nothing to start, there's nothing to crank. So the only miracle that you use in an electric car is you're using a giant 1,500-pound battery to start something that is the equivalent of a 2001 cell phone. That's my dash computer is basically an old cell phone. So if you think that won't start, you're wrong. If you have a 10,000 times bigger battery that heats itself, and it's insulated from the cold, it's always going to start. I've never read or heard anecdotally about a electric car that hasn't started in the winter. So, how does an electric car work? And the reason is, it's simple. This is the new Porsche Taycan, recently available if you're wealthy, and I know you're not because you're here.
At the library.
It's a very nice car. I would like. Here we have the combustion car over on the left. It has 2,000 moving parts. You can see them there. I don't know how that even goes together. There are people paid to put them back together. Electric car has 18 to 20 moving parts. And yet people think the electric car is the complicated one that is not going to start in the winter. The miracle is that combustion cars start in the winter. This is an electric car. It's like a normal car, except you take out the engine, the transmission, and the tailpipe. It still has wheels, it still has suspension, it still has doors, it still has cup holders, it still has a radio, but you've basically got a motor and a big ass battery. The battery keeps you weighted down solid, you don't roll. One of the biggest problems with SUVs is rolling because of the high center of gravity. You're actually much safer. Plus you're a bit heavier than everybody else.